How's it going, everyone? Paul with Adaptable Survival. What I want to do in today's video is take a look at my essential kit. This makes up the core of whatever gear list, loadout, whatever I'm taking out into the woods, the field, on a trip with me. It makes up the basis, and then I kind of branch out from there. Stick with me as we start taking a look at the different criteria and categories that I go through. Now, with this essentials kit, this categories of gear, this isn't necessarily to say this is everything that you should carry, or this is the end-all be-all for everything survival or backpacking or anything like that. This is just the core items that I try to always carry with me, whether that's day trips to multi-day trips. I carry a lot of this gear when I'm teaching, when I'm out on my own. So this is more or less my thoughts and theories on the gear that I choose to carry. Now, this is going to fall really similar to some other lists on the internet. For one, with me being a Pathfinder instructor, the 10Cs play a big part in my gear selection. I don't necessarily carry everything on the 10Cs list because I kind of make a hybrid list of my own thoughts with the gear and the stuff that I choose to carry. Another list that kind of helped fine-tune things for me is the 10 essentials that you can find through REI, a couple other hiking sites online as well. I kind of looked at those lists, figured out what I like to carry, things that quite didn't make so much sense for me personally to carry. So with this video, I'm going to go over the different categories. I have my table and my chair set up, so we'll do a little top-down view like I've done in the other basic outdoor skills videos that I've done up to this point with fire starting stuff. So let's get that top-down view and start diving into it. Now, category one for me is going to be navigation. Now, this list isn't entirely made up of, highest priority to least priority, but I do put a heavy emphasis on these first few categories. Now, this is my navigation kit. I believe I did do a video on this, so I'm not going to go through the entire kit, just the main component that I try to carry with me all the time, and that is going to be a compass. Now, compass is critical because once you learn how to use a compass, now you can travel a straight line, shoot an azimuth, travel any direction that you want to go. And when you partner this up with, let me grab the map I have in here, some sort of map. Now, this isn't a map of this area particularly. This is a map of the school, since I typically carry this kit when I'm teaching. But having, the map with a compass, if you want to go bare bones navigation, you can kind of see where your starting point is, plot out your course, those sorts of things, find different resources for wherever you want to be able to travel, if I can talk as fast as I'm thinking. Now, the second layer with my navigation, and let me get my phone out here, is I choose to use a couple of different resources on my phone here. Hopefully I can get this in here and not look all goofy. But if you look on here, down at the bottom here, I have two GPS maps, or apps I should say. Guide GPS, and then I have Base Map. And then a couple other navigation maps, different things like that. But the main reason I like this, and you can see here, that is a bunch of points of interest at the school nav courses that I have planned out. I like to have that on my phone because even if I am not in service, I can still generally see where I'm at. I can download maps for when I'm offline, so I can always use this as a secondary reference point if I am using the map and compass as my primary. Now, with GPS, I know the iPhone just came out with the feature to set up satellite communications or emergency communications through it. I don't have it with me today, but I usually carry Garmin InReach Explorer. It's a full-sized GPS unit that actually has the capability of satellite communications. The other two options out there that are very popular are the Garmin Mini 2 in the Zoleo satellite communicator. So those are really, really great to have a small item where you can send text back and forth to home. And if you have a full-size unit like the one that I have, that gives you another map or another system that has a map on it, because now I'm creating a couple different redundancies, adding on top of all of my other navigation skills. The next category that I always carry with me is my medical gear or my first aid gear. Now I have a few different things out here. This is a Wolf's Den, what do they call it, a multi-operational fanny pack. I will throw a link to their site so you can check this out. I just recently picked this up mainly because I want to support small businesses, and this is a veteran-owned business, but there is a signal panel built into this. So now not only can I carry all of my medical gear, but I have another way of signaling. So with my first aid kit, I did a video a while back talking about first aid kits, medical training, stuff like that. Number one, always get training before you start carrying any kind of trauma-based gear, and that's typically what I focus on. So as you can see at the bottom here, I have a Cat 7 tourniquet, and then I usually have quick clot, a pressure bandage, and then these are just some cheap gauze that I had laying around. This kit I'm kind of in the process of reworking, so this isn't going to be the end product that I carry. But I always want to make sure that I have items that can address severe bleeding. I am getting another pouch in where I can carry 2 tourniquets on the front of that pouch. Plus, I'm looking at some options to EDC a tourniquet. So if you have recommendations, let me know in the comment section down below. In addition to those trauma-based that trauma-based gear for medical, I carry just a few random, these are just travel packs of Excedrin, Advil. I'll carry Benadryl. Is what I have in this old Aleve bottle. And then the other thing that I'll carry, so I'd carry those things just to address, diarrhea, allergies, headaches, different things like that, aches and pains on the trail. Nothing too crazy. As far as like Band-Aids, I just make do with duct tape, and then I can tear up these cheap gauzes if I need to. The other category that I'm going to focus on, and I have 2 smaller bottles of this stuff here, is what I call skin protection. Now, even in the wintertime, you can get sunburnt, so I will typically have a small tube of sunscreen. I don't always use it, as I shamelessly admit, but one thing I use all the time is bug spray, or in this instance, I have the Picaridin lotion. I find that this is a little bit more effective for me, but if you do like to use any other kind of bug sprays, leave that open for yourself. Thing to note with bug sprays, DEET, if you spray your gear with that, you have a high likelihood of that starting to corrode that gear, start deteriorating that gear. That's why I choose not to use that. I use Picaridin for my skin, and then I treat most of my gear with permethrin. In addition to some of the basic medical stuff and the trauma-based stuff, I also lump in signaling into my first aid kit. Now I have 2 different things here. This is just a Vargos. Let me get this focus in here. A Vargos titanium whistle, and this I can easily just put in that front pocket, not have to worry about it. And this is a Poplar Front ultralight signal panel. I actually scored this not too long ago. I wanted to give a shout out to Adapter Die on Instagram, and I do believe he has a YouTube channel. If he does, I will link him down below. But this is just a small signal panel that I can either use for signaling, a waypoint, anything like that, and it packs up really, really small, nice and compact. Again, I like to support small business when I can, so definitely check out Poplar Front on Instagram. And now I can store that right in that front pocket. And the last thing that I'll typically carry in my kit are hydration packets, tablets, anything like that to give me quick electrolytes. Thing to note with electrolytes, just a good rule of thumb for practice. For every 1 liter that you consume of electrolytes, consume 2 liters of water, just to make sure you're not oversaturating your system. The other flip side of that is if you don't get enough electrolytes replaced in your body, you can flush them all out and cause some serious reactions to that. The other thing that I'll carry in here, and this kind of goes into another category that I'll talk about next, is water. Now I carry just some water purification tablets. With it being winter, I don't necessarily carry around any kind of filters this time of year, but I'll carry those as kind of a last-ditch effort, and then I'll always resort to boiling water. Man, I'm just all sorts of tongue-tied today. But now that just gives me another way of getting purified water, clean water, so I can constantly stay hydrated. The next category we're going to cover is water, or a container to carry water, boil water, filter water, those sorts of things. Like I said, it is going into winter now. It is below freezing right now. Got snow on the ground, so I'm not carrying my Grail at this time or any kind of other filter. I am focusing heavily on either boiling my water, carrying water from home, or some sort of options like that. So the primary bottle that I carry through the majority of the year is the Pathfinder titanium bottle and cup set. I do believe this is currently sold out, but Survival BSO, I do believe he has a few left in stock, so you can definitely check him out if you're interested in this. But these should be coming in the stock hopefully by spring. But as you've seen on my videos, social media posts, I've been carrying this thing almost every single day for 2 years. It's all discolored, got a big old dent in it from dropping it on the gravel. First thing I did was actually replace the cap that comes with this with a Human Gear cap. Just makes life a little bit easier because I can open this up, take a drink whenever I need, versus taking the whole cap off, worrying about losing that. And then I have the titanium nesting cup to boil water whenever I may need. The other thing that I typically carry, now this is my budget ultralight cook kit. I'm not going to dive into this, but I already did a video on this. But this is generally always in my kit, so I can boil water quick, efficiently. I don't have to start a fire all the time if I want to boil some water for a meal, for coffee, anything like that. And then this is my brand. Is this again? I think this is GSR. Yeah, GSR. This is the Microlite. Now this is an insulated bottle, so I'm not going to be boiling in this at all. But anytime that I want to carry hot liquids, or in the summer, cold liquids, I'll bring this along with me. The main reason I like this one is for an insulated bottle. It's nice and light. It's not super heavy, anything like that. I can't remember the exact weight, but I will throw it up across the bottom of the screen. So I always try to carry multiple ways to carry water, boil water, get clean water, those sorts of things. And I will be doing a video in the next couple of months on options to carry water in the wintertime. So next up is lighting. So typically I always have some sort of headlamp with me. This one is a Peaks. I just picked this up. It is not a cheap headlamp, but from what I've read and I've seen so far, this thing might be my all-time new favorite headlamp because I can actually use this at a high setting for 6 to 8 hours according to the specs. But like I said, I just got this, so still got to test it out. But whatever headlamp you choose to carry, I typically have a criteria that I look for. Number one, I try to get in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 lumens. This one has a max lumen output of, I believe, 1,000. If I'm wrong, I will throw the correction across the screen. But this also has a red light setting. Let me see if I can get this to go on. See, so I have multiple settings for lighting options. Now, the headlamp that I carried for a really, really long time and still use is the Black Diamond Storm. That's 450 lumens, but that gives me the option of a red, green, and blue light in addition to the white light. The other thing that I'll carry for lighting is, now this is not necessarily more of like a survival thing, but more of like a camping thing. is some sort of lantern to use in my tent, on my ridgeline, whatever I may be camping in. So I actually have these Revel Gear, this 30-foot camping light. I actually just picked this up, so I can't give you any pros and cons to this particularly. But you have seen in other videos, I have the Black Diamond Zip, which I will do a review on shortly. But I like to carry some sort of lantern, that I can hang in my tent on my ridgeline. That gives me some lighting, so I'm not always using up my batteries on my headlamp while I'm in my camp. I can have stationary light there, and then when I venture off to collect firewood, go to the bathroom, get water, anything else, I can rely on my headlamp. Now, the main reason I don't carry a flashlight is the headlamp allows me to keep my hands free, so I can work on tasks. If I trip and fall, I can brace myself, where if I have a flashlight, I trip and fall, I have the potential of losing my flashlight. So just a few things that I look at when I am selecting my lighting. Now, to everyone's favorite subject or favorite thing to do, start fires, for all you pyromaniacs out there. So I generally try to carry multiple ways to start a fire. So number one is always going to be a Bic lighter, because as long as it has fuel, I can light this, have an open flame to get my fire going. Second up is going to be my ferro rod. Now, I just have a little 4-inch one with me today because it's nice and compact, and I made a little lanyard with some paracord, scrape this off, get a fire going. I thought I packed it in there. But the third option that I would always carry with me is some sort of matches. Now, I say always carry with me, and I obviously forget today, so kind of breaking my own rule. But the other option that I'll carry is some tinder, because now I can use this in conjunction with my lighter, my ferro rod, my matches to get a fire going. Now, the other thing that I carry in my kit, which we already covered with navigation, is my compass, because that has a magnifying lens on there. And for me, I kind of categorize that as my last ditch effort to start a fire. But with that comes making char material. So first thing that I would try to do if I'm out for an extended period is have a little tin with me that I can make some char material if I need to or if I want to. But as you can see in here with these Tinder Quick Tabs, I can carry a ton of these and have multiple fires if I really needed to. Next up is emergency shelter. Now, I've been playing with a lot of different shelters lately to kind of see what I like, see what I don't like, just to see what kind of options are available out there. So I actually picked up this Atoa Gear. Get that in the camera here. This is a 5x7 or 5x8, I should say, ultralight tarp. As you see, it packs down really, really small. And on the inside here, I just have my ridgeline, and I think I have 4 or 6 stakes in here. I got 6, so I just have 6. If I can get this untangled here, 6 mini MSR groundhog stakes. Alternatively, I could always make stakes. Damn, I just can't talk today. Stakes off of the landscape, but for me, I'm all about being as efficient with my time out in the woods as possible. So I don't want to sit there and carve 10 stakes if I don't have to, when I can easily enough carry those in my kit. And this kit, packs down really, really small. Let me get this in the camera here. Stop taking it outside of the film or outside of the frame. But now, I can throw this in any pack that I need to. Alternatively, I can always carry a poncho. Let's see what other options are out there. There's a variety of different tarps. And I will be doing an emergency shelters video to go along with this basic outdoor skills playlist. The other thing that I would always carry is, this is an SOL XL emergency space blanket. Now, at the school, we always show making shelters with the Arc'teryx emergency space blanket, the Pathfinder, the Grabber Outdoors. And that's all fine and well. But for me, I don't want to carry one of those around. One, they're bulky. I can carry these 2 around, and it's half the size, if not quarter the size of one of those emergency space blankets. And in reality, I don't always want a reflective side on my tarp or flip it up and have a reflective side shining up. I like having a little bit more subdued colors, but this XL space blanket gives me, number one, a huge signal panel, because this is about like 90 by like 70 inches. I can't remember exactly. I'll throw that across the screen here. But there's a reflective side on here. So if I do need to reflect some heat off of my fire, I can do that. I can, you know, tape this to my tarp, or I can put this on the ground as a ground cloth to give me a barrier. It'll reflect my body heat. If I do have a fire, it will help reflect some of that heat back in there and trap a lot of that. So I like this stuff because it's really, really simple. And I never use this, you know, if I'm just out for the day hike. I just keep this in my kit just for emergencies like it's intended. I'm not going to use something out of the realm of what it was designed for. All right, so let's dive into cutting tools. So these are the 3 types of cutting tools I generally always carry with me. And number 1 is some sort of fixed blade, although I have used some partial tang knives, but generally I'll try to always carry some sort of full tang. This is just a PFT GB2 Puko. This came out years ago. I've been using it a little bit more recently just because I've been testing out knives to see the designs I like for my own knife that I am currently designing. Second up is going to be a Swiss Army knife or a multi-tool. I carried a Leatherman Sidekick for a lot of years, and I did do a video on that, but recently, probably in the last year, I've been carrying the Swiss Army, the Victorinox Huntsman, I should say, as my primary, just because it gives me 2 different blades, some smaller blades, so I can do finer work. Gives me another saw, has toothpick, tweezers, those sorts of things. So it gives me a lot of options in a compact tool. And like I've said in other videos, I have actually taught entire basic classes just using this, even some intermediate and advanced. Sometimes you'll see me at classes and I won't even have my fixed blade on my belt. I'll generally be using this quite a bit. The other thing that I typically carry with me, and I just picked up this Outback Pocket Boy, or the Silky Pocket Boy Outback, I should say. Man, I cannot talk today. To use this in my rotation, just because I kind of like this color a little bit better than my red Silky F180 that I've been using for the last 2 years. And that still finds its way into my rotation, just because I like it, because it's nice and light. Saves me a couple of ounces because it doesn't have this big metal part, but at the end of the day, I'm not too worried about the weight of my kit entirely. But having a folding saw to process wood, and you'll actually see me this winter when I'm doing some overnighters use a variety of different saws to process wood, because there is a paramount tool to have with to process firewood. Now, the one thing I don't usually carry with me or use hardly ever is an axe or a hatchet. Number 1 being safety. There's a more likely of a chance, I should say, that an injury will occur using an axe or a hatchet. Just, for instance, watch some episodes of Alone. How many of those people have to get taken out because of an injury due to using an axe or a hatchet? And there's definitely a time and place to use that tool. But for me, for the majority of the times, the saw is significantly safer. The other thing is calorie expenditure. It's going to take me a significant amount less calories to use a saw than it is going to swing an axe. But at the end of the day, it's all personal preference. Decide to carry what you want to carry. The thing I always say with classes is there's no right or wrong answers to the gear that you carry or the things that you do outdoors. It just makes sense to your situation, what you're doing. Just don't do anything boneheaded. Now, this next category, I'm sure I'm going to hear some flack for in the comment section down below, but feel free to share your opinion. But I like to carry some electronics with me. Obviously, number 1, carrying my camera today, but I always have my phone with me, and generally most people do. But into addition to my phone and the capabilities that I put into my phone with different apps, different resources with this, is I always have some battery banks with me. Now, I have 2... These are just under 27,000 milliamp hour battery banks. I've been using these for, I don't know, a couple years now, 3-4 years at least. These are just 2 Anker batteries, and I did a video on this little kit. But I always carry these because, number 1, I can recharge my phone. I am looking at buying some solar panels to kind of help alleviate some of the weight that I have to carry with this. But there's always a trade-off there. But this battery pack can also charge my camera that I'm shooting on. So I can charge a lot of different electronics that I carry with me with these battery banks, and then my phone, I could take pictures, I could do videos, whatever I may need to do while I'm out there. So for me, this is kind of a category on its own, because most people nowadays have their phone with them when they're out in the woods. So start looking at the capabilities that you can build into your phone with different apps, different ways to use this. For a long time, I shot all my YouTube videos off of my phone. So if you are looking at doing YouTube, definitely look at the capabilities of your current smartphone, or if you're in the market to upgrade, what options are available out there. Now, this category of items is what I call my repair kit or my repair gear. Number one, I always have a small roll of tenacious tape with me for my jacket, for my tent, my sleeping bags, my quilts, anything like that. If a hole gets burned in them, I rip them, anything like that. I usually do carry duct tape with me. I just don't have my roll with me today. And then I carry a ton of extra cordage. Now, this is just some number 12 bank line that I wrapped around a spool tool type looking thing. I can't remember the exact name. I'll throw that up across the screen. But I do believe these little spool tools come from Sageworks. If I'm butchering that name, I'll throw it across the screen so you can check them out if you want. But for me, I always want to have some extra cordage, whether that is for repairs, for different projects I may be doing, and then having tenacious tape, duct tape, I can use that for, first aid if I need to make a quick band-aid, anything like that. The other thing that I would carry in my medical kit, which I don't have in there right now, is a roll of Leukotape. That's really good for blister prevention. So having some sort of tape to do repairs, and then extra cordage for repairs or anything else you may do is really, really helpful when you're out in the field. Now, this 10th category is something you may or may not agree with, but I always like to carry it with me, and this isn't necessarily indicative of what I would actually carry. This is just a bag with some food in it that I grabbed on my way out of the house. So I have two different meals in here, because as you've seen, I have my ultralight cook kit with me, so I do have a little gas canister, but I also do have some bars in here, and then some whey protein drink mixes that I can mix up in my bottle. Now, I like to have just some extra food with me while I'm out on the trail, just in case something does happen, get turned around, I can't, my phone dies, whatever the case may be. I at least have something I can stretch out for a day, 2 days, multiple days. Now, the thing with food is you can go quite a while without eating. I fast every single day. I generally stop eating about 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then don't eat again until about noon the next day. Now, some people don't like to do that. Hey, do what makes sense for you, what makes sense for you and your situation. But I like to have some extra food in my kit, especially with the winter time. You burn a lot more calories than you normally would, and with a lot of these meals that I have in here, there's a lot of protein, and protein, when it's broken down in the body, takes the most energy, so it's going to create the most heat for you to stay warm. And partner that along with a high fat content in the wintertime, and that's going to burn kind of your slow energy, so you're going to stay warmer for a longer period of time. Now, for a couple of categories that may or may not fit with you and your situation. Number one is protection, and I'm not going to show anything that I carry for protection on the channel due to reasons with the channel. But if it makes sense for you to conceal carry or have some sort of firearm, if that makes sense for you, you have the training and accept the responsibility that comes with carrying that tool, then carry that tool if it makes sense for you. In addition to that, what you can carry is bear spray, especially if you're heading out west or areas where that is highly recommended. That is always something to carry with you if the situation is needed for that. The other thing that I didn't highlight in my essentials gear list here is extra layers. So with this REI hybrid, flash hybrid hoodie, this is waterproof, windproof, or it's water resistant and windproof, I should say. But typically what I would carry is a rain jacket with me, because now it gives me a waterproof layer for the outside, and I can carry multiple different layers with me. And as I said in some posts online, I will do a full video on everything from base layers all the way to outer layers and everything in between. So I'm not going to cover that in this video. These are just some bonus categories to add into the 10 essential areas or categories that I look at when I'm packing up for a trip outdoors. Like I said, this list is kind of a hybrid between a lot of different essentials kits, 10Cs, whatever you want to call it. Now, this is just what makes sense for me in my situation, how I like to prepare myself gear-wise for the outdoors. This isn't necessarily to say that you have to carry all this stuff or this is exactly what you should carry. My videos are all based around sharing my own personal knowledge of how I like to operate in the woods, how I like to prepare for the woods, those sorts of things. And then you can glean whatever useful tidbits of information from my perspective to incorporate in your systems or don't incorporate. At the end of the day, I'm all about sharing knowledge, educating more people, and getting more people outdoors. In the comment section down below, let me know what some pieces of gear are essential to you, some things that I may be not thinking of in my essentials kit that I can incorporate. As y'all know, I'm always looking forward to the shared knowledge we have down in the comment section. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe as well. That gets more eyes on the channel, helps bring more people into our community so we can grow our knowledge base and learn together and grow together. As always, this has been Paul with Adaptable Survival. Adapt your mind, your body, and your gear.